All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm Sophie Alexander from the Nutritional Wellness Center, and I'm talking all about heart health for the long run. And this is an important topic to me. Gosh, I see these types of heart questions and issues, especially around cholesterol, being a really important one for clients. But it's also personal for me too. I personally I deal with a heart arrhythmia and irregular heartbeat that I control entirely through diet. So a lot of these things I'm sharing with you are things that I do. And I have family history of a lot of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart arrhythmias in my family. So these are all things that I am actively doing to be preventative for myself as well. And there are things that I see work for my client base. All right, so I really believe strongly that everyday habits shape your heart's future because February is Heart Month, but it matters for everyone. It's not just people with heart disease, because small daily habits really do quietly shape your heart's future. And it's really important to understand that it's there's broad angles of how all of this is impacted, right? It's impacted by your food choices, it's impacted by your stress management, um, yeah, how much energy your body has, your movement in your life, your sleep patterns. And then I'm going to get towards the end some ways that we can, what I call, do smarter testing about what's actually happening in our body and what may be contributing to it showing as heart stress. So your heart is listening all day long. I see that your heart hears your food, it hears your sleep, it hears your stress level, it hears your thoughts. And heart disease builds slowly over years. This is not something that happens overnight, right? And unfortunately, by the time we're seeing it, it is patterns and a build that has happened for a long time. So it's harder to undo. Um, and that's why small daily patterns and changes can lower risk in a really powerful way. And um, I fully believe that you don't have to be perfect. We're just working on moving in a better direction. So it's really important to recognize that feeling tired and wired is not a thing we want you to feel, and it's really significant when it comes to cardiovascular health. So I see this across the board that so many people feel tired, wired, or both. And I want to help you to understand that that's not normal. It's not just aging. It's not just life. Um, it's a response of the body of being in a chronic stress mode, where our system is in fight or flight, a sympathetic nervous system response. And this is a response that raises blood pressure and puts more strain on the heart. But it results in poor energy. And so then people are looking for ways to create energy. And that often means reaching for sugar or chocolates or caffeines or a quick pick me up. And that results in blood sugar swings. And then that often impacts circadian rhythm and how people are sleeping at night. And then if folks are feeling really too tired, they're not going to be active, right? You're not going to be moving. And so it just has these repercussions. So when stress and energy are off in the body, absolutely the heart has to work harder. And it's one of the root causes angles that I find are really important to work at when we're talking about heart health. So everyone's measuring cholesterol and everyone's worried about cholesterol. But I want you to know that cholesterol is a nutrient. Our body uses it to build our cell linings. Um, and our body makes up a big component of our brains. And cholesterol is the firefighter, right? It's not the fire in the body. So cholesterol is not inherently bad by itself. As I just said, your body, yeah, uses it also to build hormones, uses it to repair tissues. So the issue is more, and the problems happen when then there's inflammation and damage in blood vessels. So you want to think about, yeah, cholesterol. It's like they're the firefighters. They're showing up at the fire. There's a fire there, right? They're trying to help you, but they are not causing the fire. So I always like to think of, well, what's the fire? What's causing the fire? So if we can calm the fire, or another way of talking about that is calm inflammation in the body. Um, and if we can change that particularly with lifestyle, then we're not just chasing a cholesterol number, right? Because we need enough cholesterol, especially for women. We need it to build our sex hormones, right? I'm concerned about the pattern happening with pushing cholesterol lower and lower, especially as people get older. And then the rising we're seeing in dementia and Alzheimer's. I'm concerned about what these the amount of people on statins and low cholesterol numbers is doing to brains. And so I think I really want you to understand that point. And a lot of things I'm going to be talking about next are about how we can identify and help understand the inflammation. Um, and then we can work to bring back balance. So there is a silent flame that can happen in the body, right? And particularly when it happens in the arteries. Then this is where the damage happens, and then the cholesterol comes along, being put there to repair and to strengthen the arterial wall. But unfortunately, then that's a mechanism that causes, plaquing and narrowing, and in severe cases, blockage, right? So inflammation is your body's alarm system. Short term, it's super helpful. But the problem is that we have all these situations where it's chronic. And then it's harmful. All these mechanisms that our body is designed to short term help for something has these long term repercussions. So when there's chronic inflammation, it can irritate the artery wall, can damage the artery wall, weaken the artery wall, and this increases heart risk. So there can be everyday stressors and triggers for this type of inflammation. It can be sugary foods. Um, yeah, we find that high blood sugar absolutely causes this type of um, damage. Poor sleep, stress, smoking, eating ultra processed foods. But what's great is that we can measure some of this flame or some of this inflammation with specific tests that tell us so much more than just seeing your total cholesterol number, being like, oh, it's high. Okay, go on a statin. And that's supposedly the handling. So food is hugely important, especially when it comes to um, inflammation in the body. So food is information that our body processes every meal, and it can push our body towards healing or it can push us towards stress. So I want to encourage you all to focus on real whole foods. That's vegetables, your fruits, your proteins, your healthy fats. You want to crowd out your diet of sugars, sodas, packaged snacks, fast food, fried foods. It's really not a fad, right? It's long-term heart maintenance. Yeah. And so, what I would say a heart-loving meal looks like is half your plate is non-starchy vegetables. So this is your greens. It could be your broccoli, it could be peppers, it could be green beans, it could be Brussels sprouts, it could be cauliflower. Add a palm-sized portion of protein. So that can be fish, that could be eggs, that can be chicken, that can be lean meat. It could be tofu if you're vegetarian. And it absolutely, on this list is eggs. It can be beef, right? Um, I'm not, I'm not going to argue for you to avoid saturated fats, right? Um, but you want to have the healthy fats, the olive oil, avocado, the nuts, your seeds, olives, and you want to have carbohydrates from real foods. So that can be sweet potatoes, winter squash, other root vegetables, whole fruits. I find that the issue coming with cholesterol is so much more about refined carbohydrates and sugars in the diet. But unfortunately, saturated fats have really become villainized. Um, and then the highly processed polyunsaturated fatty acids too are have really become promoted, but I find that they're very inflammatory and damaging. So that's like your canola oils or your safflower oils. soy oil. You say, yeah, so I've just started to talk about that, but not fats are created equal. Not all fats are created equal. Fat is really important in our bodies. Our bodies need fat to produce hormones. It's really important for our brain health, for our cell membrane strength. But the quality of the fats really do make a difference, how stable they are in terms of if they're exposed to heat, and what kind of processing they go through to be extracted. So olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, and kept at lower temperatures. Avocado and avocado oil works well. Nuts, seeds, coconut, fat from your ideally, pasture raised meats and your fish. So we want to avoid deep fried foods, fast food, heavily processed seed oil based snacks. And I find that seed oils are in most snacks. So like you have to actively work to avoid it if you're looking on packaging for um, protein bars, crackers, chips, even yeah, breads. Like I was at a Whole Foods this past weekend trying to find a gluten-free bread, and the majority of them had these heavily processed seed oils in them as well. Um, and then fats plus sugar, so that's like your donuts, your fries, your milkshakes are especially hard on the heart. So we want to create a smooth ride. We want to avoid the roller coaster. And in this, I'm specifically referencing blood sugar stability. So big blood sugar swings cause energy crashes, cravings, and more stress on our blood vessels. When the body sees too much sugar too often, has to pump out more insulin, right? And then over time, our cells stop hearing the insulin well. This is what we call insulin resistance. And this is a huge component of cardiovascular risk. And so there are some really simple things that you can do that have a big impact. Protein at breakfast is a significant one, stabilizes things for the day. Having fewer sweet drinks, really focusing on fiber. So fiber not only, well, excuse me, fiber from your veggies and from your fruit. And fiber helps slow down the digestion of sugars. Um, so if you're having something sweet, having it with a meal, having it where you've had your proteins and you've had your fibers first, and then you have, say, a dessert, it's going to slow down the impact of the sugar in that dessert and thus slow down the stress of that sugar on on your system. When you focus on balanced blood sugar, it supports calmer moods. People typically have less belly fat, and it really shows with heart health. Being active, having daily movement is really important. So I'm a big fan of having movement as a part of your life. I mean, I go to the gym. It is a really important thing for me too, but having a daily rhythm with movement is important. So even if it's short, even if it's 10-minute walks, it really helps. We sit so much as a society now. So any way you can help yourself to sit less and move more throughout the day. Uh, so we really want to have a target of about 150 minutes a week of moderate activity. That can be brisk walking. And then the strength work is really important for maintaining muscle. Um, so one way to think about it is like every hour move your body. Like yeah, get up, stretch, walk around, especially if you have a sedentary job. How you rest and your quality of sleep is also a heart treatment. So when you sleep poorly, it raises blood pressure, it increases your hunger hormones and your cravings, which then makes it just so much harder to apply all the things we just talked about with food, right? You're looking for quick sources of energy, ways to just get through the day. So aiming for a regular sleep window, most adults need about 7 to 9 hours. And yeah, sleep is a really hard thing for a lot of people. People often don't get enough or they struggle to fall asleep, or they struggle to stay asleep. So I find a lot of that has to do with mineral balance in the body and stress resets and people's own sleep hygiene, their habits, right? So a lot of people are on phones or on screens late into night, and then they're not doing just some of these things that help our systems wind down for healthier sleep habits. So that can be really deliberately slowing your breathing, taking a short walk, seeing the sun, right? That's particularly hard this time of year. Gosh, I have been outside all of just the time it took me to walk to my car this morning so far today, right? But getting in a rhythm with seeing morning sunlight absolutely helps our pineal gland with its melatonin production and helping to have the correct melatonin flow for your day so that you're winding down at night and awake in the morning. And yeah, staying off screens for at least an hour before bedtime. When your nervous system feels safer, which these are all different forms of nervous system resets as well, and your heart gets to relax. And many of us don't have that very much in our days. But yeah, I want to talk more about cholesterol and why one number or one measure isn't the whole story. So I think of standard cholesterol panels as a starting point. They're really not the full picture. They tell us how much cholesterol, particularly the liver, is making, and then how much the liver is bringing back to, or the body's bringing back to be recycled. How much the body is making is your LDL number, also often labeled your bad cholesterol. And then the HDL is how much is being brought back to be recycled. And then they often run a triglyceride number too, which really can tell us a lot about how your body's handling your diet, the amount of carbohydrates and sugars in your diet. We like at our office like to see your triglycerides between 80 and 100. Um, and so I don't feel strongly if a total cholesterol is higher than the standard levels that are recommended. If I see triglycerides in a healthy range and if I see the ratios our healthy ratio of what's being made and what's being brought back. But I also care so much about inflammation markers. Yeah, what's your blood sugar doing? Is there any insulin resistance? And what are your genetics telling us about the role with cholesterol? So deeper testing helps match the plan to the person, right? We don't want to do just a one size fits all. Okay, oh, your cholesterol's over 200. You need to start a statin drug. The statin drug will bring the cholesterol number down, but that's what it's doing. It's clearing the LDLs. It's not addressing any of these other reasons why your body is producing all those firemen, right? Um, and I think that's the more important question and the more important thing to figure out in terms of actually having a healthy heart. So there is an advanced heart panel called the Cardio Zoomer that I'm going to tell you a bit more about. This is actually a blood test and a urine test because of some of the markers that it tests, and it's something that we can order for you at our office. The urine component, you can do it at home, and the blood, you need to do a blood draw. And they've really thought about all the facets when they put together this test. So it's giving us, it analyzes all the information it gathers about you and gives you some risk scores so you can understand where you fall. It does do your standard lipids and ratios. Um, but it does what are called redox risk markers as well, which is measuring oxidative stress in the body. And that's the balance between your body making reactive oxygen species and your body's antioxidant defenses, right? So reactive oxygen species are often increased due to pollution exposure. Um, yeah, some of these food components I was talking to you about, processed foods or rancid oils. So it's majorly a way of understanding causes of inflammation in the body. It's going to measure just what's going on with the endothelial tissue in the lining of the arteries, right? So it can be measuring dysfunction with that. It's going to give us a sense of how much plaquing is happening and repair activities happening. It's going to measure clotting risk markers. The pharmacogenetic variance really means um, it's it's looking at your genetics to understand your body's response to medications too, which I think is a big point and one of my big concerns when it comes to statins, because I see a lot of clients respond very poorly to them in terms of muscle weakness and pain. So yeah, it gives us feedback about your metabolic risk, um, how much plant sterols you're getting in your diet, how much omega fatty acids you're getting into your diet, and what's that ratio. Um, and so, yeah, there's a lot of information that it gives us to paint a bigger picture of where to be focused, what kind of support you need, um, what tools you have in your toolbox to approach that. And that can be a balance of really saying, okay, through this, it is recommended that you do some cholesterol drugs, but also where can you focus in diet? Where can we acknowledge that you've got some genetic factors that are not helping you? Where are there environmental exposures that are really increasing the stress on your system? Um, and I'm happy to talk more about this test, happy to provide more information about it. When you go to our website, there's a link on the website that says at-home testing. And when you click on that, you can go into our Vibrant Wellness store and you can click on the cardio Zoomer test and you can see sample tests and you can just learn, you can dive into so much detail about it um, to see if it's the right thing for you. And pricing is there, all that type of information. But what I find with the heart, it is small daily steps that have these big long-term impact, right? And then another component that I haven't talked about so much this time, but is my daily, is that it's also what's individually going on with you, and that's what I work to identify with the work that I do using the technique of nutrition response testing, because I find if people have high cholesterol or say they have something else going on with the heart, right? They're dealing with high blood pressure or they're dealing with palpitations, right? There is, there, this is the body's way of communicating about dysfunction. And we need to really identify on an even more personal level, like why your body is communicating that, right? And the cardio zoomer gives us so many insights, but I also find that nutrition response testing is a way of like hands-on muscle testing technique can really help us to dive into, yeah, why is the liver stressed or what are some of these environmental exposures that are driving inflammation in the body? Because what could be causing a heart arrhythmia for me might not be the same thing that's causing it for you. Um, and I find that environmental exposures, particularly chemical pesticide exposures, are a big theme. I find food sensitivities are a big theme. Gosh, the past 5 years, COVID and spike proteins have become like a significant theme, especially when it comes to heart palpitations. Really, anything can cause anything. And so I encourage you, um, or if it's yourself or a loved one that is struggling with these issues, to reach out to our office, book an initial assessment, see if this way of asking the body questions would be a good fit for you. Because in recap, I want you to eat real foods, whole foods, move your body several times a day. Focus on protecting your sleep and practice some stress resets. Gosh, even just one. You can add in the deeper testing like the cardio zoomer. You can personalize your plan through nutrition response testing. You really don't have to change everything at once. Pick one habit, start it this week, and you'll be on your way. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to just say if there are any questions, I'll hang out here for a few minutes. You can write me in the chat. That's often the easiest way. And if there's not, no worries. You know where to find me, and I'll be happy to talk to any of you more about it.
Thank you, Sophie. This is Lisa. That was great.
Great, you're so welcome.